People with ADHD are going to snort cocaine quicker and faster than anyone without ADHD, and they are not going to have the same effect as somebody without ADHD. In fact, people with ADHD will calm down to, in a sense, with cocaine. Comment your experiences down below. Cocaine truly affects people with ADHD differently, and this is how I was doing 1 to 2 8-balls of cocaine in a day. I was diagnosed originally with ADD. This is back in the early 90s. Late 90s, I was re-diagnosed with ADHD. When it comes to ADHD, our brain does not produce and harness dopamine like a normal brain does. Our frontal precortex doesn't really develop. It develops at a slower pace. It's very easy for our brain to get hijacked on what's called a dopamine surge. Imagine your brain has 1,000 computer tabs open and it's just looking for some excitement. And the reason it's looking for dopamine, because we don't produce it, is dopamine gives us focus. It's like seeing the world without glasses. Everything is really blurry. You can't focus on anything. You don't know what to start. Very overwhelming. Very confusing. You put glasses on, everything is clear, you know what to focus on, and you can do tasks. That's what dopamine does for somebody with ADHD. So when you do cocaine, it is going to do 1,200 to 1,300 times more dopamine than what your brain's ever experienced. This flood, this massive flood of dopamine into your brain with somebody without ADHD is going to just be geeked out, man. They've done a line, they're geeked out, jaw just clenched, and they're just on one, big mood energy. Now, for somebody with ADHD, you're going to snort this, all that dopamine hits, and the world goes quiet. The world gets a little calm, and you can focus in all of a sudden. You have a little bit of that big mood energy and everything there, but man, the world is different all of a sudden. You can go do a task all of a sudden. That is the scary part about ADHD, is our brain handles it so differently and utilizes it differently into focus, into direction, versus this just in your face, voila, party time. And that's what a lot of what people don't realize is the stigma around cocaine is it's a very energizing drug. And for some people, it's not that energizing all of a sudden, it seems like, because of how we use dopamine in our brain. And that's why people with ADHD will do more cocaine than anyone without ADHD. Because I've been with friends before that weren't ADHD, and you lay out 4 lines, you're both going to do 2 lines. Your friend does 1 line, I get the bill, I do my first, I do my second. Do his real quick, haha, it's a joke, because my brain will get hijacked by dopamine. That's one of the scary parts about ADHD is our brain loves the feeling of dopamine. It loves this focus. It loves the reward center. It's what operates our brain in a sense. So now all of a sudden we have found something that gives us a great amount of dopamine and our brain wants it all. And we won't realize that. And that was something I never realized. I would do an 8-ball of cocaine in a day. That is like 3.5, 4 grams of coke a day. And at the peak of my addiction, I was doing up to 2. And you don't realize it because every 20 minutes I'm going to the bathroom, doing a couple lines and sitting back down. And next thing you know, you're like, how did I dump some out? There's no way I did all that. But you're productive, you're calmed down, you're focused. People used to think something was wrong with me when I was sober versus when I was high. Because when I didn't have coke in my system, I was a lot. I couldn't focus in, I'm all over the board, I'm a lot. But when I'd have cocaine, it was like, okay, I gotta go get this done. I'm high, but I gotta get this done. I would get it done, it'd be very sloppy, but I got it done. And that was the scary thing about cocaine, is it made me feel normal. And it makes a lot of people with ADHD feel normal. And we with ADHD can do a lot more coke because our brain is going after that dopamine. We don't even realize it. Our brain is also readjusting itself. And so what cocaine does is it hits you with all this dopamine and it stops the reuptake of dopamine. So you have a neurotransmitter gets pounded on by all this dopamine, and the reuptake is you normally absorb it in and kind of recycle it through. When the reuptake doesn't happen, it just piles up and you don't absorb it back in. So your brain stops this. So that means for somebody with ADHD, that crash is harder for us. We are more moody, we are depressed, we feel very empty, and our brain is screaming, we need to be normal again. So you go and do another line. But the impulse control isn't there, and your brain thinks to yourself, well, if I do 2 lines, I won't have to do quite as much, and it will last me longer. Like logically and stuff, this all kind of makes sense, but that's not how math and chemistry work and how our brain works. So you start doing more and more thinking it's going to last you longer and longer, but it doesn't. And you get into this cycle that you almost can't control. And it's so subconsciously driven of your brain thriving and trying to feel normal. that you just start going through it. And that's why people with ADHD are going to use drugs differently than people without ADHD, especially when it comes to cocaine. And people don't realize that. Like, I've had people all the time, like, there's no way you could do an 8-ball. And then I run into somebody else and they're like, yeah, I used to do like an 8-ball a day. Like, ain't no thing. And that's how ain't no thing, dude. Like, I got to the point that I would run out at like noon and I'd be like, I had to have dumped some somewhere. And I'd be like going through my drawer and stuff and like my pants, like there's no way I did it all. But as the day would go on, my lines would get bigger and bigger because my brain's in its weird sixth sense saying do more so it will last you longer. But then that crash would hit so hard and it just became this cycle, and it was never the high that a lot of people would have expected it to be. I would talk a lot, I'd get kind of excited, but I'd be focused. And that is what's scary about ADHD and cocaine, and what a lot of people don't realize. And again, why I do share. I mean, I share for educational purposes only. Hit the like and follow button, comment down below, because getting off of cocaine is even worse for somebody with ADHD than a non-ADHD person, just for the sole fact of our brain's going to start screaming for it. What happens with our brain is it readjusts itself. Say you had 10 dopamine receptors. You do a line of cocaine and your brain is unbelievable, but it's too much. So it shuts down dopamine receptors over time. And over time, your brain does not have as much dopamine receptors as it once did. And now all of a sudden you quit this. You don't produce dopamine normally. You don't have as much dopamine receptors. Like, your brain is screwed, and there's a ton of depression, a lack of focus. It's a massive struggle. And that is why it's so difficult for people with ADHD, and why it's so common to relapse even, is because our brain has readjusted itself. And it takes a long time for our brain to reheal itself back the other way. And that's where, when it comes to getting sober, remember there is no right or wrong way of getting sober. It's your way. Whether it is going into rehab, I have Refine Recovery down below. Visit Refine Recovery. They're amazing in Beverly Hills. Do inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment. There's no harm in going to rehab, especially with cocaine, because the stigma around cocaine is it's not that dangerous. You talk to a lot of people, cocaine was their drug of choice, but maybe they ended up on meth or crack cocaine or something else just because you can't afford it after a while. When it comes to, download Sunflower Sober. I have the app tag down below, or look at Sunflower Sober on iOS and Google Play. You have 24 hours AI sponsored support to talk to anytime, any struggles, anything you need. It's amazing how it will help you. There's a whole community there of people that will understand and help. There's tools and resources. There is a whole journaling section. There's therapists. I mean, you got everything you need to get sober and stay sober with Sunflower Sober. Go to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, an Al-Anon meeting. There's tons of different meetings out there. Go to them. You'd be surprised how many people are coke addicts, and it's not something to be ashamed of. And be open and honest with people, man. Build that support system around you. Going to a doctor, a therapist, a psychiatrist. Like, I self-medicated a lot with cocaine, and when I got on my meds again and I had the right help, it made staying sober that much easier. And that's what it's all about, is finding what works for you, not giving up. For the ones going through it, I know it sucks. I know that it's hard, but yes, it does get better one day at a time. I promise you that.